This is the area I want to focus on first. There were no paper caps down in here. They're all ceramic and one mica, so I actually haven't done any work down here at all yet, or any testing of resistors. Also, this metal bar had been in the way. This supports not only the chassis, but also the AC power connector. I removed a couple bolts, got that out of the way. Now I can really gain access to this area. So I'm going to check all the resistors, check for any obvious shorts or cold joints and such, and replace any bad components I might encounter. There's also this guy here, which is a dual selenium rectifier. I think it's used to develop the AGC voltage. That might be a problem as well. Hopefully. I replaced the only resistor that was off by more than 5%. But even so, I think it was only off by about 10%, which is within tolerance. But I figured, gotta try something. I also replaced the dual selenium rectifier with a couple silicon diodes. Made no difference whatsoever. This oscillator is not running. In the meantime, I did get a copy of the SAMs. So now I can really investigate this in more detail, because the schematic in here has waveforms and voltage readings. So here's that oscillator down here. This schematic is laid out a bit differently than the Beatman's, but this is the same circuit. See, now I have voltage measurements on those tube pins, so I can check those. They also give you a resistance chart. So the idea is you hook up one end of your ohm meter to the chassis or ground, and then you can check each pin on the tube, and you should get about the indicated values here. So I will go through and test that and hopefully find the problem. I think I'm onto something. I started checking the resistance readings on the horizontal oscillator tube, and the readings seemed to be reasonable until I got to pin 8. It says it should be 150K, and there's a dot next to it. And it says this reading will vary, control set for normal operation. So that pin must go to one of those controls elsewhere in the set. Well, if I check that pin, I get nothing. Infinite. Just to double check and make sure the meter's hooked up right, I'll check pin 9, which should be 510 ohms. And I have 516, which is pretty darn close to 510, so the meter is hooked up right. So what does pin 8 go to? Well, I can see right off the bat there's a 47K resistor connected to it. So I'll check that side and this side. And 49.8, so fairly close. That goes to one of these solder cups, and I can see there's a wire going around to the other side. So I need to flip this chassis over, but before I do, let's see, what is that supposed to connect to? Pin 8, 47K. Should go to the horizontal hold coarse and horizontal hold fine. It's R17A, R17B, and then that goes to ground. So if I have no reading here, one or the other of these controls may be bad. I traced the problem down to this dual control. One control faces inwards. That's the coarse horizontal hold, and that's working all right. The other one faces outwards to where the consumer can make adjustments, and that one is measuring open. Got infinite on my multimeter. I've got it connected between the wiper and one of the outside terminals. That's the one that's actually used in the set. So I'll see if I can free up some debris. I'll spray some more deoxit and work it back and forth. One possibility I can try is they're using the center and one leg, but not the other leg. Maybe this other side is alright and I can remove the wire from here and just relocate it to the other side. I worked the control back and forth with deoxit for a while, and I wasn't able to clean up the whole control, but I found a short, maybe 20% arc where it was making good contact, so I left the control in that position, so we do have continuity through. So I'm hoping the horizontal oscillator runs now. Might not be able to get horizontal hold, assuming we get a picture at all, but at least we should get some high voltage. So here goes the power. Yep, I think we got high voltage. I just heard some static crackle. Yeah. Seems a tad low, but I know his meter's off. Getting around 8,000 volts. I think it's supposed to be more like 12. But hey, that's high voltage for sure. No picture, but again, I know this picture tube isn't quite right. It's supposed to have 600 milliamps flowing through the filament. We've only got about 450. Let's see. If I crank the brightness all the way up, though, we might be able to get something. I'm not sure which control is brightness. Okay, brightness is by the tuner, so I think... Oh yeah, I can actually see a trace on the screen now. I noticed that before. Small. So we obviously don't have vertical, and we don't have full width horizontally. Let's see. Vertical hold. Height. That should be the height control. Yeah, height's having minimal effect. Contrast. I fooled around more with the controls, and I discovered that if I take the control up front, vertical hold, and go all the way to one extreme, the very end, I can get vertical. With a bit of twiddling, I actually sort of had vertical hold too. A very short rotation, I mean just a couple degrees, so looks like both this control, well basically both vertical hold and horizontal hold are flaky. So here's horizontal hold, and if I turn that a bit, well, we lose the high voltage altogether like before. So I gotta have the horizontal hold all the way counterclockwise and vertical hold all the way clockwise, and then I get an image of sorts. Let's see, this is height. So if I adjust that, so it looks like I am able to get pretty decent vertical deflection. Width control obviously is lacking. Just turn the brightness down a bit. Let's see, can I get this to lock better? Almost. Huh, I completely lost the video for some reason. I figured out how I lost the signal before. If I turn the AGC down and then tune the fine tuning off the station, I can never get it back. Not with just the fine tuning. I have to go back to the AGC control up here and tweak it a bit. And now it's back. Alright, so pretty good progress. What I'm going to do now is check this vertical hold control, which may very well be bad, or if it does check okay, then I'm going to check out what it's hooked up to, because I have to keep it all the way at one extreme or it doesn't work at all. I already know the horizontal control is bad, so I guess I'll unmount this control, see if I can fix it up. That could be a tough one to find, because it's a goofy dual control where there's a shaft coming out of both ends of two controls. Here's that dual coarse fine horizontal hole control that I can't get to work properly. I'm going to pop this open and take a look inside. To get these open, you need to pry back 4 little tabs. You can use a small flat bladed screwdriver, or what I use are just these small nippers. And carefully squeeze it just to get them started. And I'll switch to some needle nose pliers. So just applying pressure against the body with one side of the jaws, and the other side just slipping that sharpened edge under the tab, just to pry it up a little bit. Okay. Let's switch over to these guys, which have no serration. I don't want to gouge these up or put any undue strain on them, so I can increase my chances of bending them back without breaking them. You don't have to bend them back all the way usually, just sort of like that, a 60-degree angle. Not quite enough. That's good. Yeah, that is not salvageable. See that? That is what's left of the carbon track that should be around the edge of this control. See, just a focus. There we go. So there's this little brass center wiper there, and it's supposed to be running around a track of carbon that's been deposited around this outer ring. Looks like about 50% of that carbon is completely gone. From here to here, it's just all gone. So this control's completely shot. Alright, well, I looked in the Sam's parts list, and they list replacement parts with a number of manufacturers in the control section here. Let's see, they have the Zenith part number, Central Lab, Clarostat, IRC, and Mallory. For all the controls except this dual control, that one's only got a Zenith part number. That's this guy here. Zenith 633973. Well, I can Google that part number. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe there's one on eBay or something, or I can ask around with other restorers. Maybe somebody's parted out one of these sets. Also, some vendors like Playthings of the Past and Moyer's Electronics, I think it is, that still have some new old stock parts, and maybe I can get lucky with them. Otherwise, I can rig something up. This is a dual control, but the shaft doesn't actually go through. So really these are just two independent pots, kind of just glued or welded together. So if I have to replace this whole thing, not that big a deal, I suppose. Now, vertical hold was bad too, so I'll pop that control out and see what I can find. It didn't really come as any surprise, and when I took the vertical hold control apart, I found exactly the same problem. Most of the carbon has fallen away from the control. Also really corroded on that wiper. Also noticed when I did have this set running, I saw some sparks in the brightness control. So that's probably got a similar condition issue, which makes me think that this set got wet, rain, who knows, maybe even some more corrosive materials worked their way into the top. Remember, all these controls face up, and there's a hole through the cabinet for each of these controls, so if the cabinet Maybe somebody was just even spraying with cleaner and wiped it down, and that cleaning fluid worked its way into these controls and rotted them out. Look how corroded that is inside there. So I think the best thing to do would be to replace all the controls, if feasible. In case you guys are wondering what the heck this set looks like once it's in the cabinet, here's another one of my friend's sets that I pulled out of storage. Handle on the front. It's called a portable, but it's fairly heavy. They call it a bug eye. I think you can see why here. It's because of the way the knobs are placed on there. Kind of look like bug eyes. And put this down. Here's where those controls normally mount. See, they stick out the top. It looks like some of them normally would have knobs that stick up. I think these are broken off. Contrast, vertical hold, probably brightness and horizontal hold. That would make sense because those are ones you would typically adjust, whereas these two are under caps because these are less often used. I think this is vertical height and vertical linearity, not something you would normally need to adjust. Might have also been caps over something like this horizontal hold, I'm not sure. All I know is this is what this set currently looks like. So far I've tracked down one promising new control. It's a 1 mega ohm potentiometer with a knurled shaft that will fit the original knobs. Figure I can use that for vertical hold. Mount that guy right up there. So I'm going to end this segment here and hopefully pick up in the next one with a complete set of new controls. And then I want to get back to what I started out talking about quite a while ago, which was replacing the selenium rectifiers and potentially modifying these capacitance values and so on to get 245 and increasing this resistance to get 0.45 amps, all with a higher line voltage of 125 VAC on the input.